Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to PSA TV. I'm Avalon Williams. We have in studio this morning with us, he is the political leader of the New National Vision, Mr. Fuad Abubakar, and also former boxing coach and political activist, Mr. Boxo Putz, and no stranger to us here at PSA, or the country I should say, political activist, Ms. Kim Cole. This morning we will be discussing the budget that was read out in the House of Representatives by Minister of Finance, Mr. Imbert, where his fiscal package for 2020, he presented a $53 billion package and estimates revenue with oil price pegged at US 60. So good morning, guys, first of all.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bokso. So my first question to each of you here this morning is, were you happy with the overall budget? I'll start with Fuad.
Of course not. From a political perspective, I don't think any opposing side to the current government would ever say that they're satisfied with the current budget. But it goes into more than that. Mm-hmm. There are a number of issues that I see jumping out at me when I listen to the presentation. I don't want to call them blatant lies, but there are certain misconceptions that have been put forward by the Minister of Finance. Mm-hmm. And I think he's being a little disingenuous in the way he portrayed this budget of supposed stability, sustainability, growth. I don't see that for Trinidad and Tobago coming out of this fiscal package. Mm-hmm. But of course, we'll get into more of that as we go along.
Yeah. Kim Cole, and your thoughts, were you happy with the overall budget?
I can't say that I was happy with the overall budget. However, I would say that it was a budget for the working class. I anticipated that, the man on the ground would have benefited a little from it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would have seen, particularly with the minimum increases of the increase to the minimum wage and that kind of thing. In the grand scheme of things, it may not necessarily be a big thing for the middle class and above, but for the poor man on the ground, the daily paid workers, etc., definitely, they would feel as though it benefited them. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme of things, no, I can't say that I am happy about it.
So.
No. For the last 4 years, we've been hearing the same budget. And at least not even 30% of the pledge has been realized. And you come back to read the same budget 4 years on, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. How do you expect the nation to believe that you're going to deliver on any of the promises when you haven't delivered 30% of your last 4 years' budget? Just my thoughts.
But so let me just ask you, did the budget do any, was it sufficient for sports in terms of boxing as well?
Well, no. And we just had to cancel our WBC heavyweight world title fight for lack of funding. It is well documented that we got 75,000 from the Sports and Culture Fund, and we got nothing from the Ministry of Sports. I made numerous calls to the minister. She hasn't responded as yet. She's going to be written to again, and then we're going to have a public discussion with her whether she intends to address the most important boxing match ever in the history of this country. Maybe she's a young minister. She said she do not know anything about sports. And I'm starting to believe that. However, I do believe that she could manage. She knows a bit about management. And in management, you must speak to your technocrats. If you don't know about the sport, you have a director of sport, you have a deputy director of sport, you have a permanent secretary, and you have other people in the ministry who know about the sport. So you must be, and then you have me who I could advise you by way of writing about the importance of the said sport if you do not know anything about the sport. So there again, so she should know, she should understand how to deal with this particular sport, i.e. boxing, which is dying under her watch, and she needs to do something to revamp it. You have 60-something sports on their watch and all must be treated equally. That's my take on it. We'll talk a little more about the budget as we go on, but
If I was to add about sport, Boxo, I mean, you don't even need to look at the figures to know that there hasn't been satisfactory allocation to sport. We had the president of the sport, or the chairman of sport committee, sport entity, saying that they have not been allocated what is sufficient for them to fulfill their mandate and their operations. We're going into Olympic year 2020 in Tokyo, and they are not seeing the funds being made available for them to fulfill that mandate and put Trinidad and Tobago on the right forum, from TTFA, football, one of our major sports, cricket. Everyone is saying the same thing, that the necessary allocations for them to have programs, for them to push youth sport, for them to carry on leagues, have not been allocated in the past, over the last 4 years, and it carries on into this new budget. So we are not, I say we, they are not serious about sport. They do not clearly value the importance of sport in the lives of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. They don't view it as a serious tool to manage our social issues or our escalating crime issues, and therefore that has been played out again in the sparse allocations. So totally dissatisfied when it comes to the allocations for sport.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to see. I guess feedback from particularly Mr. Potters relates to sports. What I did notice is that there is in the budget, in this budget, he said there was tax breaks for corporate sponsorship for sports and culture, and it was doubled to $6 million. So I can only hope that this is not another, carrot and the stick situation whereby they say something and it is never allocated.
it is, because, and let me just say this, to the Ministry of Sports and to the nation and to the Minister of Sports and would-be ministers and past ministers, your stock in trade in sports is your athletes. Without any athletes, there is no Ministry of Sports. Without the development of athletes, there is no sports ministry. The athletes are the one who give you your jobs, and the athletes are the one who are treated the worst of all the entities in boxing. They treat the athletes like junk. When the Minister of Finance come to the nation and say that he's given these tax breaks, the Minister of Finance should tell us how many of corporate citizens or the corporate companies in Trinidad and Tobago utilize the tax breaks. I am knocking down every door, walking every pavement, pounding down every door, asking corporate Trinidad who getting these tax breaks to assist, and every other sporting entity going to them. It's only two big entities in Trinidad and Tobago could fund any sporting event up to $3 million. Some of them the medium-sized and small companies don't make $3 million a year. Who are you fooling? It's only maybe Coca-Cola, Digicel, and B-Mobile could afford to sponsor something up to $3 million.
I would like to,
You know,
I wanted to actually correct you on that. There are a number of companies in Trinidad and Tobago who can afford to sponsor sporting events, like sporting entities. But we find that the corporate culture in Trinidad and Tobago is that there is a hesitancy or a lack of interest in the development, the social development of the human being in Trinidad. That is what it is. Boxo, there are many companies in Trinidad and Tobago, many even owned by our politicians like Mr. Faris Arawi, like Mr. Colin Imbert. And if you look at their track record as businessmen who have business entities that turn over millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, right? we are aware that Mr. Imbert is a shrewd businessman who owns a number of property developments. Likewise, Mr. Faris Arawi, and I could go on, right? If you look at them as an example, as corporate entities who are creating profits, what has been their track record in plowing back some of those profits into sport? And that is the problem. The problem is that our corporate citizens in Trinidad and Tobago do not recognize their social responsibility. They do not understand the importance of development in sport and the rewards that it brings back to Trinidad and Tobago, and obviously to them as well. So don't feel they don't have the money boxo, or it's only the Coca-Cola, and they have plenty money and they have plenty corporate entities in Trinidad and Tobago who make enough money.
But if I may, tie that into the political landscape, they do understand the importance of sports, because every time, in particular areas, when it comes to campaigning, there are certain areas where they always look, politicians on both sides of the both major political parties, they send a sportsman or a sportswoman to sort of capture the young vote, because they understand that sport is something, at least from a community level, the grassroots level, it appeals to us. So they do know when to use sport and how to fool the citizens of the country as it relates to the promise of, okay, we're going to do something when it comes to sports. For instance, Mr. Potts can tell you, you have certain sportsmen who are already, being tossed around to vie for certain seats in this upcoming general election. So again, I think I made the comment at the last show. You have, in too many instances, they have the answers to the problems. The issue is there is no real intention to treat with the issue. It's just a matter of fooling the citizens, fooling the grassroots, fooling people. They do know and understand the value of sports, but they don't care about us.
Before we move further, Box, I just wanted to ask you, earlier this week I saw there was an article with deceased Giselle Salandi given an award. How do you feel the fact that your name was not even mentioned? I know you were the person who got Giselle to point A to B.
Locally, my name isn't mentioned locally. Mm-hmm. Internationally, my name is mentioned. Even the people who are given the award, I'm in contact with them. So it is a personal thing locally. Sometimes, everybody have their agenda, leave box out, keep out box. I remember when she was given the award, I spoke to the then Prime Minister, I said, I am the developer of this child. I took this child from being tossed out from her home to come into my home and develop her, and this is what she become. I deserve an award too. I nearly wasn't invited to the event. So this is how Trinidad and Tobago, profit have no honor in their own country. So this is how Trinidad and Tobago treat with me, but no big thing, because the movie that is going to be made of her, it's going to be me. The money that is going, and I said it here before and I saying it again, so Trinidad and Tobago will know, anything boxing with Giselle Salandi is owned by the Potts family for eternity. Not even her father have the rights, not even her father, her stepfather, her family have the rights to her boxing, all the rights to her boxing, TV, anything boxing with Giselle, the Potts family have the rights to it. So anybody who wants to do anything Giselle Salandi must contact the Potts family. So that said, I am not worried about if the media didn't say Boxer Potts was the developer of Giselle Salandi, or if the Minister of Sports don't recognize me. The Minister of Sports is a 5-year shelf life, or it doesn't matter who in the civil service doesn't see it fit to mention Boxer Potts. It is like water on the back with me. So that is not really important to me. What is important to me is that the funds to develop more Salandis is being stifled at the Ministry of Sports, and yet the Ministry of Sport go out and boast that they want. Look at the performance. Look at the performance of the athletes. Look at the performance of the athletes at the last World Game. You starve the country for 4 years. You take away book grant, you take away food grant, you take away all the grants for 4 years. So it's showing in the malnutrition of the athletes. You starve them and you don't want them to perform. You see, sometimes I was going to say things, but I had to be measured with my words because all they like to tell me about, so temper your enthusiasm to talk. So, you cannot expect, like Venezuela. In Venezuela, prior to the coming of Chavez, Venezuela had the lowest diabetic rate in the world because they had a good diet. But with the coming of Chavez, they had to eat rice and bread. So diabetes creep into the equation. So it's like you're starving the people where you expect them to perform. And that is why we get no medals after you starve us for 4 years, it show up in sports in the World Games. No medals. Starve you again, no medals for the Olympics.
Well, you did say to eat cassava, So.
Cassava? But there's a country in the world that eating cassava alone and it affects the eyesight. You read that, right? So tell Coleman I want him to go on a cassava diet.
I'm sure
You understand? But I want, whilst we're on it, I want to commend him for bringing legislation to the traffic point and bringing the point system to the traffic violation in Trinidad and Tobago. But I also want to tell him and all politicians, you must put a point system in the parliament for lying. 4 lies and you're out. 2 years suspension without pay after you've been caught lying 4 times in the parliament.
We would have an empty parliament.
Well, I want to empty it and give the country a new start. That is where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So that is why I'm saying it. We, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, must push for this legislation. 4 lies and you are suspended from parliament for 2 years without pay. It's either we'll get a bet, and it is the politicians who tell me to say this morning. Because Keith Rowley saying Kamala lie, Kamala saying Keith Rowley lie. Keith Rowley saying Kamala thief, Kamala saying Keith thief. So they're telling us that they're lying and thieving. So don't tell me I can't talk about this morning. You tell us, the nation, that each other lying and thieving. So let me put legislation in place for let us stop lying and thieving.
Wow.
Because on the hustings, the discussion is who thief, and who lie. That is the discussion on both sides. So let me get it right. The thieving and the lying have to stop. Let me put a point system for thieving and lying. I like that. Legislation for that.
Okay, just to come back on the budget, the minister also claimed that the government tried to deal with burning issues like helping the lower income citizens and also the upper end of the socio-economic budget bracket. Did he really achieve that in this budget? Fuad?
These burning issues have been burning for quite some time. I don't know why now, or I do know why now it is being addressed in the most minimal way. Yes, minimum wage has been increased. I thought minimum wage had been already increased to $17.50. Such is the ridiculous nature of that type of remuneration for work. We have asked for a living wage to be formulated. I know people within the PSA have been advocating for that as well, because yes, you might have a minimum guideline, but we need a guideline in terms of, based on our cost of living, what a person can live a decent living standard on. And that should be the guide for what people work for. There needs to be greater respect for everybody's sweat in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to stop looking at people as lower class, middle class. The segmentation of our society is just a tool that the politicians use to control us, to split us up, and to ensure that they return to power continuously. Minimum wage, the increase in URP, the increase in CPEP. I don't know how much of you all know what a CPEP worker works for.
I think it's about $60 a day.
Right, so
A what?
It equates to about $1,100 for operator per fortnight, $2,200, right? If you look at the CPAP programs, what they've become an additional income for older people, right? People who have certain levels of disabilities and issues who go into that bracket and try to extract some financial benefit and then go on and do some other job during the day. After spending 4 hours in the hot sun, early morning till whatever time, doing serious landscaping, they then have to go on adults, elderly people as well. Look at the content of it. Um, that that is not satisfactory for us as a developed country with such um, resources, right? That is not satisfactory. And the minimal increases that they have given, um, I understand it would be appreciated by these individuals, but you have to think beyond that, and you have to think about better, and you have to think about the appreciation of what you are doing. Because if you look at the income of other people throughout our society and what they are doing to achieve that income, then you have to value what your sweat is putting out. We need that re-evaluation of work in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to have a greater respect for everyone and every responsibility that they fulfill within our society. And 15% on top of $1,100 every 2 weeks, that is not respect. 167,000 people, he said, are going to be affected.
167, 194.
When you join in the pensions as well, but I mean, URP and CPEP. So we're looking at what?
10% of the population.
10% of,
Well,
a little more than
13,
10%, 15% of our population, even a greater percentage of our working force, because you can only work from 18 to 60 or whatever, legally. We're looking at that big percentage of people trapped in those types of unsustainable work because they don't have a choice. I don't think people who can get a higher income earning job will stay with CPEP or URP. URP is also not a continual process. Funding increases and decreases for those programs, and therefore they're able to take in more, and they also have to decrease their intake as well. Just like OJT, they say 8,000 people now they're going to bring it up to, right? So 8,000 people, subsidized incomes, right out of school being exploited by these big businesses, doing the role and responsibility that other people who would have been paid a higher level of earning would have done. Something is drastically wrong with the way our society, the way work is organized. Something is drastically wrong. And if we don't enter into that type of conversation, then we will never lift that lower class at the moment and have a balanced society. Everyone has been complaining over the last 4 years that the middle class is dwindling. Spending power has decreased. Small businesses, I operate a small business.
But the economy is booming. This is what the finance minister said, Mr. Speaker. The economy is booming. I don't understand how we can say the economy is booming when small businesses are continuously closing down.
None of the figures show that the economy is booming. No figures
And
show.
the economy is experiencing growth, Mr. Speaker. These are the sentiments echoed by the Minister of Finance.
Well, if you have a tremendous decline and then you have a 0.2% growth, yes, you are experiencing growth, but what is that level of growth? So that is the
But by his standards.
that is the foolishness that we are fed. We need to be extremely careful with the way that they articulate things and the way they put things forward to us, the distractions that
that
they put.
is the issue. I think that the manner in which these things are communicated to the general public, the average man on the ground in many instances does not understand what is taking place in the grand scheme of things. The man on the ground, the CPEP worker, the URP worker, all they are saying is at the end of the month, I have about $400 additional. That can pay a bill. That can buy a box of Pampers. That could buy an extra tin of milk. It can pay a bill. That is what the poor man or the
$200 and it can't pay a bill. It could buy
a phone pad.
$224 for a pack of milk for your children. So it could barely buy an extra pack of milk for your kids.
But all they are saying is $400 extra with GT. That is $5,000 annually. Each person is going to directly benefit. These people we're talking about. Now, collectively, you're talking just under $1 billion, yeah? And I would put it that they have decided to give $1 billion to the ground in exchange for access to a further $300 billion for the next 5 years. I don't have time with the PNM government, and they're playing, all they're doing is playing politics with the lives of the citizens of this country. I have an issue with that. I have an issue when people work hard for their money and they cannot get a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. I have an issue with that. The cost of living is too high. I am a mother. I would not say that I'm a single mother, but I physically raise my child alone in the household, okay? And I have to deal with daycare, well, not daycare, but, childcare. I saw childcare was something that he addressed in the budget.
Yeah.
But I mean, we discussed that further. But again, the issue is the average man on the ground doesn't understand what is really taking place. They don't see the bigger picture. All they see is, the little crumbs and the little pittances that they are receiving, and they think that, okay, we get through. But the message needs to go out to them. This ain't nothing, this is the PNM government playing tracting again with the citizens, with the lives of the citizens of this country. Never mind, you have the banks earning $500 million in profit. You have big conglomerates earning billions of dollars annually in profit, and a person who is employed, an employee of these companies, earn $2,400 TT a month. They still have to pay NIS and health charge on these wages. Rent is through the roof. So what are you working for? Even in a 2-income home that earns, let's say, $2,400, $2,800 per person, right? How can you even begin to afford anything of need in this country when you have the basic necessities so out of the reach of people?
Yeah.
So in a sense, what are you really working for? What's the purpose of work? You work to empower yourself. But there are too many hindrances and red tape and policies that prevent the average man and the man on the ground from being able to empower himself.
So what could you add to that?
I think Colin Edward is a very intelligent man. He's a smart man. He's a con man. And he's playing on the ignorance of the population. And Colin, don't take it personally, because here what happened. You fire all the OJTs when you came into office, and you just get them back their work at the 4th year, and you tell me that you're doing good for the OJTs. You met 7,005 or 7,000 or 8,000 OJTs, you send them home, you break down to 1,700, and you bring it back up now to 8,000. So maybe you had a 500. Be well done, right?
Yeah, you give you nothing for a long period of time.
Come
and
on,
then give
and now
a cup of water.
you're saying that you raise wages, and the those wages are in the small business entity, very small business. What you just did there, you create a black market for the Venezuelans to come and work for less than the minimum wage, and the Trinidadians who want to stand up for the
Right.
$20 an hour, rock so, and we go pay the Venezuelans $15 an hour. So all the women starve a little bit, you know what I mean? You're doing all kind of little smart thing.
The avenue is now open for that because
there's a black market trade going on there. So, come on.
If you have a 0.2% increase in your economy, right? But you have an intake of they say 30-something thousand individuals, most of whom are seeking work, then where's the growth to facilitate for these individuals? Who is actually suffering? Who is being left out?
The small man,
who's being left out of the loop?
The masses, the same masses that you come to election after election, and you are very humble and nice when you come to us. Vote for us, put us in office, and we'll manage your business. What I urge the masses to do is to educate themselves politically, understand how the
trickery and
trickery and how to be part of the financial discussion in your country and the political discussion, and then you'll get an appreciation for how you should move forward and think, and who you should put in office to manage your business. I find these politicians and all that, they come to you, and when that election bell ring, man, the politicians are some of the sweetest people in the country. They're so nice. They will come, they will talk to you, they will kiss a baby, they'll hug up a vagrant, They will do all kind of things to get your vote. And when you see that decision is called on that night, whoever wins,
They change
their
their
phone number change.
That's the first thing that they do.
They get different.
Oh, they
You
sound
can't
like oh,
see
they're
them.
talking
You
from
can't-
experience.
you can't-
You're sounding like
I'm
you're
talking
talking
from
from
experience.
experience.
I older than all here, and I'm in politics longer than all here.
So they didn't know not to take their
sometimes-
number from before?
No. Sometimes there's
Or you believe them before, man?
Yeah,
Well, in
Gary
my
Griffith.
capacity as a journalist and a media personality, I get feedback from
Oh,
everybody
okay,
from time
okay.
to time. But not me. I know how to get onto these people when I need to get onto these
But
people.
the media is the watchdog between the
The media
people
is supposed
and
to
the
be the
politician.
watchdog.
Yeah.
But these days, some of the medias are being muzzled for some reason. I remember a certain media house was told.
Yeah, yeah.
But let me say this. I remember a certain media house was told, if you talk about that, we're going to pull the ads.
Yeah.
A certain media house was told, you can't talk about that. And that is detrimental to the public, the same public. That that you're talking about is enlightening and educating the public that you come and ask to vote for you. And if you only talk about that, we pull all the ads. So the media houses are being muzzled too. So we have to understand that. The public must understand that. This is why you see this thing you call Facebook.
Yeah.
You see social media. The public must get involved in social media.
No, but the social
and
media
have a
is
say.
a threat to democracy.
Exactly.
Right?
I was now about to chime in and say that the Minister for National Security
Minister for National Insecurity.
and Minister for National almost everything, spokesperson for the PNM on many occasions, said that one of the major threats to our democracy, because their version of democracy is their ability to manipulate the people and stay in power.
Donald Trump is saying that.
Is social media.
He tweeting every day.
Well,
and he's the leader of the free world and he is saying that. So something wrong with that.
And I have to add PSA TV and whichever other independent forums are created in a affordable manner to allow different people, differing views, social activists and other individuals to come on and really interact with the people of Trinidad and Tobago and present views that are impartial for their benefit. I agree with him, you know. This is a threat, but not to the democracy.
To the politicians.
To the political,
It's a threat to
the
the
parasitic.
hypocrisy, not democracy.
I kind of older now, so I know some words from before the parasitic oligarchy that Mr. Pandey used to speak about,
Right.
that he became or whatever, those things.
That he became.
Yeah,
Right.
the parasitic oligarchy that wants to continually dominate our society, politically, economically, socially, and keep people suppressed and oppressed.
But this is modern day slavery. I don't understand how people don't realize that we are slaves. Think about it.
Well,
You
I-
earn
well-
$2,400 a month. You earn $2,200 a month via CPF, URP, or whatever. And the minute you get paid, what do? You go to the grocery, it's owned by them. You go to the pharmacy, it is owned by them. You go everywhere, it is owned by them. So technically, what you need to do is just, one of my friends used to say that, take your wallet from your pocket and just drive down Goodwood Park or Glencoe and just fling your wallet over their wall, because in essence, everything we earn, it goes back to them.
And we work for them as well.
And we work for them as well.
So you don't even have to do that. You could just tell them, keep it.
Keep the pay.
Because you work for an entity and you can't afford the products that they produce, that you produce for them with the remuneration that they are giving you to produce those products. That is reality. They own our state. We have seen so much other things. We have not seen campaign finance reform. They own our state. When the budget is read, these 400,000 light bulbs that are going to be procured, these drones, these tablets, these body
Jeez, but what
cameras,
about
these armored
the
vehicles,
biodegradable
these tasers, these biodegradable whatever containers. Every single thing that the state is now going to spend our money on to purchase, to supposedly give back to us, is going to be supplied by
by them.
Your father called it economic slavery in 1964, you tell me that.
And we in what, 2019?
2019, and you're talking about it. It's just economic slavery.
So-
You move the shackles from the hands and the feet and you put it in the
pocket.
workplace or in the
Yeah.
pocket.
Just
Right?
to get back a
So,
bit, based
you
on
know,
the budget, can businesses manage minimum wage increase given the state of the economy?
No, you're shutting down small businesses. You're shutting them down.
Because
When you
of-
don't give them
yeah.
any tax breaks, you're shutting them down. You're not talking about the tax break for small businesses. You know, you're talking about minimum wages for the workers and pressure in the. That is why I say you're creating a black market there, right? But you know, it is skillfully and wisely done.
But you know, funny enough, I would find I'm a small business owner, and many small businesses pay more than minimum wage. You find that some of our
Pay more
largest,
taxes too.
yes, of course, we pay VAT, and some of us are not able to recoup our VAT because we're not able to afford the accountants and the whatever to present our stuff properly. But you find some of the biggest companies in Trinidad and Tobago, Prestige Holdings, who generate profits every year. The banks that Mr. Imbert spoke about last year and said that profits are being generated. Look at how profitable some companies
billions of dollars as well,
On
the
our-
Caribs and stuff like
on our
that.
backs. You find those people are the most hesitant to increase their payment to their workers. And that is immoral, that is indecent.
But even some of the security companies owned by these people, they don't even want to pay overtime to their workers.
Some of the most profitable companies in Trinidad and Tobago, because of the billion-dollar industry that security has become. Our commissioner of police is a businessman himself with a huge security company. I don't know why nobody else, everybody probably afraid to speak, but he's supposed to protect us, right? His entities are growing tremendously over the past, how much years, over his tenure. I am seeing those brown jackets everywhere. And it's not just private companies, it is also public, the state.
Yes, I am aware that that company provides security services for, I think, one of the Port of Spain General Hospital as well as the Savannah.
There's nothing wrong with that. The Minister of Finance, the Minister of Finance have all kind of businesses all over the country.
Keep going.
The Minister.
No, it's not alleged.
Well,
It was confirmed. No, it was confirmed.
Well, let me move from the alleged. It is not alleged that Paris Valari family own all those big buildings that get in huge sums of rent from the state.
And it's not alleged that he
That
just
is
removed
alleged.
himself from the ownership.
It's alleged
a
or
year
window.
ago.
It is a window or alleged or a window ledge or a really alleged.
It is unalleged.
It is unalleged. It is unalleged. So we could go on and on with who own what. All right. Everybody is doing business, and it's nothing wrong with doing business. Donald Trump sitting in the White House and doing business, and well, let me say like he gangster in the world now, and nobody is saying nothing. So it's the norm for people, politicians, and people who hold high offices to do business. That is the norm now.
That is the norm?
It is the norm. It becomes the norm.
That is
like it or not, is either the public going to push back or we're going to stay dormant and docile and accept it.
Let
You
me
have to be
be
very
real with you.
careful, when you talk about public pushing back with the Sedition Act.
No, I say push back. If push back.
So you can't say anything anymore.
Well,
You can't say
if you want
anything
to arrest me
anymore.
for saying push back, arrest me. You know, they have the
We
law
could just
and
join Duke, that is all. Right? Because you cannot be...
I find you get real quiet since they lock him up, boy. Why this man don't come out and say something? I would have been on
We're sure
every
Duke is
TV
gonna come out
station.
sometime,
I would have been on every TV station, every radio station talking about, and just be measured with your
Perhaps maybe
language.
he has become a persona non grata, like your father. Because
I doubt that.
His father is not persona.
listen in the media world, as
His
we were talking about
his
the
father is
media.
one of the most knowledgeable men.
No, I said
If they have two knowledgeable men in
no.
Trinidad, they go, he's one.
He said that to me. He said,
So-
Kim, I am a persona non grata. I reached out to him to interview, and
It's
it
wrong in
comes
saying
back.
that, eh?
No. It comes back to the context of media, and the media is supposed to be the watchdogs of the people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the media, I can tell you, between 2018 and present, I have had 3 programs cancelled. Never mind, I have existing contracts and that kind of thing, because it's the way I present the issues. Unadulterated, straight to the point, very matter of fact. In fact, look, we are supposed to be joined on set with Miss Jolene John, Senator, Miss Khadija Amin, Senator, Mr. Glenn Ramadas Singh, Senator, and you have on that side of the table, nobody showed up, right? Why? Because they don't want to answer the questions. These are the people who we put in power to represent our interests. However, when it is time for them to give account to us, if they hear Kim Cole is on the panel, they wouldn't show up. If they hear whoever it is, maybe whether it's
But
whoever,
they want
they're not
us to
showing
vote
up.
for them.
Why are you not showing up?
But you don't want to interact with us, but they want us to. But Fuad?
I
No,
don't
but
know
I'm
about that.
asking.
Well, I don't know, but if Fuad is one of what that the politicians don't want to associate with.
Listen,
Because Fuad is a
He's
citizen
a-
of this country. He's an aspiring politician.
they are allergic to truth.
That's the thing.
They are allergic
They're
to truth.
to truth.
They are allergic to people
But-
who will challenge them. They want to sit on panels where
Yes,
they
yes,
have the,
man.
yes, the elasticity and the comfort that they won't be challenged and they won't be questioned. They do not want to come like a British democracy where they have question time and they have to sit in
You
front
think
of.
Jaylene is of that ilk? You think Glenn is of that?
I don't know.
I just asking.
I
You think
know.
so?
Why you would ask me that and I can't
I
keep my
feel,
mouth
I,
shut?
I feel Jillian had to, she must be, the boss must be called out. This morning I think she working in the arrows. She must get called out to something important.
I don't
I feel
know.
Glenn in a traffic jam.
Boxer, on that note, do you think Ms. John has the command of the East-West corridor? Good morning and welcome back to PSA TV. We've been chatting here about the 2020 budget. You can see on the panelists here we have Kim Cole, Mr. Boxer Potts, and also the political leader of the new national vision, Mr. Fuad Abubakar. So as we took that break there on that note, I just wanted to throw in a question regarding the trade unions. Do you think this budget will spark a call from the trade unions currently negotiating with the government for this 15% increase as well? Fuad?
Yeah, for sure. There has been no provision made for any of the unions to be provided for in terms of their negotiations. We had a protest / shutdown by tutor about 2 weeks ago, and we know the importance of teachers in our society. Obviously, that is not being translated into the budget with the recognition that those negotiations need to be settled soon. We've seen a continual disrespect to workers by this PNM administration and by other administrations before. They keep saying that due to our economic situation, they are unable to meet certain demands, but they have been charged with the responsibility that they begged and campaigned for, and they need to find solutions economically. And this kind of carries us into one of our major issues with this budget. There are no new revenue streams in Trinidad and Tobago, and there's no provision for that extension of our economy to provide the necessary growth that we need to sustain our society. Recurring expenditure is a tremendous part of our budget, and it leaves little, I won't say very little, it does not leave a lot for us to continually develop with. Therefore, priorities have to be kept. And therefore, as a Minister of Finance, any economist will tell you, your priority has to be putting money in the right areas, taking care of the most vulnerable, but also using the money that you have to generate new income streams. We have talked about agriculture, we have talked about tourism. There are other things they've spoken about in really, really nice flowery words. But when you look at the dollars and the cents of the thing, clearly there is no trust and there is no impetus towards extending those avenues for income. And therefore we're still in the same position. One of the biggest lies in the budget is the gas price that we have been pegged on, $3 US. And we've seen consistently over the last year and all projections for the future that that is not going to be a reality. So I don't know how Mr. Imbert, maybe it's deception, maybe it's oversight. I doubt the Ministry of Finance would have made such a great oversight. It accounts for a large shortfall in the budget. But when you're trying to paint a picture of increasing revenue and decreasing expenditure and a smaller deficit, you have to play with figures. And I think there's been a bit of play with figures. Another deception that they've put forward is the success of the exploration side of Petrotrin. All the commentators have already expressed that the exploration side of Petrotrin was making a profit before. So to come and say now that you split up the company and look, we've made it profitable from a loss of 15 billion is disingenuous. But this is politics and this is electioneering. It is not honesty to the people. Still, even with these small incremental increases to URP, CPEP, there isn't that feel good on the ground. There isn't that drive in the economy and growth. And therefore, even what they're looking forward to drive them into another successful election is non-existent. We need honesty. We need serious, pragmatic business minds. I don't know how much of a business mind Mr. Imbert is. I know he has whatever holdings and what, but somehow these individuals who have been successful in the private sector, extremely successful, when they come into the public sector, they are not able to drive our society forward progressively economically. That has been their continual failure, all of them. And that augurs to, where we are. And it affects, obviously, myself, the young people in the society who have dreams, goals, aspirations. It affects those in the lower income and the middle class tremendously.
Yep. So, and before I invite Kim and Baksu into this discussion, I mean, you just spoke about honesty and stuff like that. As a political leader of the new national vision, what do you think about the political landscape currently in Trinidad?
As we were saying before, the feeling that I get from people that I interact with on the ground is a disgust for politics in general, is an acceptance that both sides of the coin are very similar and they accuse each other of very much the same thing. A feeling that, we're not into the personalities, we want a better standard of living, a better life, water, health, crime, security. Those are our issues that we want alleviated, and we are not seeing that being done. So I feel that 2020 is going to be an interesting year. That's the choice of word.
Do you mind, just expressing in terms of interesting year?
Politically, we are going to see tremendous changes. I think we are going to see a major shift away from the two major parties. I think that disgust, that dissatisfaction is going to be expressed in the way we vote. People feel very strongly that they have not done what they have promised. We have a lot of nice words and laughter coming from the Minister of Finance, but there's little laughter in the homes of, the poor and the middle class.
Yeah.
We still catching we in to survive. We still not back to where we are accustomed at some points in Trinidad and Tobago of being, because we have been so lucky and privileged with gas and oil revenues. And that is going to be borne out in 2020 in our elections. There may be a lot of voter apathy, people staying away, which we see in Trinidad and Tobago already, in particular in the local elections. But I feel as though if a new party, people who can be trusted, fresh, young, new faces come to the fore, and they can successfully market themselves and
Do you
articulate
think
their
we can get that
position.
from your party?
I'm going to endeavor my very best. I have reached out to a number of other young people within our society who are movers and shakers to try to encourage them. There's always this hesitancy because of the price that you have to pay.
Right.
The victimization, drag you through the courts, drag you through the public scope, if you're dependent on the state for your living in terms of your employment, you have a real threat there. But there are going to be people who are still going to stand against all of that and come forward and try to carry Trinidad and Tobago in the right direction. And I would like to encourage the population of Trinidad and Tobago to embrace that. You can't do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. That is insanity. I didn't say that. That's Albert Einstein, who we revel as one of the most intelligent minds that we know. So,
Just to come back to the budget discussion, so farming got the lowest allocation, but they have now made it tax-free industry. Is this really enough to help farmers, especially given that our food import bill is very large?
Who are going to benefit from this tax-free initiative? A lot of the farmers who don't own their land, who are squatters, who provide a very high percentage of the food for Trinidad and Tobago. Are you going to regularize their land so that they can benefit from this initiative? Or is it just because you realize that it's just a handful of people who are legal in the industry as it relates to land ownership that you're fooling us with this? Come and have an open discussion with the farmers in front of the public, in the public domain, and then we will know how real you are. And this is a sentiment echoed by one of the farmers yesterday to me, and this is why I can speak on it, because of the fact that this particular farmer, I won't call his name, but he is very fearful that he won't benefit from this initiative. So you need to have a wider discussion as it relates to the farming. And the food industry of our country is a very serious industry. So you need to attend to it in a holistic way, rather than just tell us, okay, tax break for farmers. What is the tax break for farmers? Is it going to be on the trucks? Is it going to be on the tractors? Is it going to be on machinery? Is it going to be on the importation of
but it's all the inputs.
It's all the inputs.
Except land.
Except land.
Yeah.
And then so what you're telling me? Where the farmers go plant on my head?
No, but Dr. Atz, when I was listening to Dr. Atz, sorry to interject, Dr. Atz, she was of the view that with new technology, with modern technology, you don't necessarily need to focus so much on the land for farming and agriculture.
Right. Well, that depends on the type of produce that you're going to create.
Hydroponics.
Yeah.
And that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
but
We have the capacity and the ability with our land space and the water, rainfall, etc., arable soil, etc., to produce and market. There are societies in the world, there are countries in the world, their major exports are food. Zimbabwe, New Zealand,
But you're going far, but we just import
Grenada,
yam and cassava from Grenada.
Grenada, their major exports.
Provision.
It is a big business.
But
Food is a tremendous industry. We spend $1 billion in imports of food.
and
Well,
why
that's
are
what
we
we know,
using up?
because in a lot of instances, several stakeholders have articulated that the food import bill is being hidden from the
Yeah.
true
Why are we
cost.
using up our arable lands into the housing industry? For
Yeah.
instance,
The-
one of the best pieces of land in Trinidad and Tobago is
St. Augustine nursery, right?
that nursery. And if you go through there, there was only houses building there.
Yeah.
The government should forbid people from building houses and those that.
But it's the government that building the houses. I remember Mr. Barrett, Bassett Barrett, had to actually protest.
The houses when time comes, we eat the concrete.
But just agriculture, it is still not being taken seriously. What we need is a change in culture, because we want our younger people in this society to move into that field, to produce, and to help them along so that they produce in quantity and quality so that they can export and also obviously provide for the market, the local market. That is not seriously being done. It is fresh, new people who are more inclined sometimes to academics and other areas that have more prestige or more value culturally and mentally in our minds. If you understand, I want to draw an example. if you looked at national awards, not just this year, over the last 10 years, you'd find that there are no farmers at getting a top award, right? So what you are saying is that
You have to be
these,
politically inclined to get.
yes, but
Yeah.
you also have to have you have to be a doctor or a lawyer
You have to
or
be
whatever.
somebody's friend to get award, no.
No, that's also true. But I'm saying, follow me still.
Of course,
Those
yeah.
individuals still
No emphasis and respect is placed upon
on the farmer.
On farmers.
We miss that understanding. We still look at a farmer as somebody backward, whatever,
Dirt on the
poor,
foot, muddy,
dirt on the
yeah.
foot, dirt in the nails, right? That cultural change, that promotion, that taking of young people from the education system and driving them through so that they respect and understand what that job is and translating that into, okay, our next crop, say, 1,000 new young farmers.
Well, they look at farming as, just somebody who, they place a derogatory, meaning
to it.
it. But a farmer is a businessman, a farmer is an entrepreneur.
With global warming, we would learn to respect farmers. We would learn to respect them in the near future.
But we respect the corporations, we respect Kellogg's and
Just now,
M&M and whoever.
The scarce commodity of the world going to be food and water in a short while.
Yeah.
Very short while. I'm talking about that. I see a billion, Mr. Decision Maker. I see you talking about fish and port. But you want to build fish and port, but you want to destroy not the land, the seabed. The seabed, the nursery of the seabed that provide the fish. And plus, you're not having a global warming discussion where you have boiling waters in the ocean and the fish is not accustomed to that water and they're showing up dead on your shores. And then you have all kind of toxic waste running into your ocean and you're showing up dead fish, but you want to build a fish and port. To fool who? Up to yesterday I heard somebody was talking about, I didn't know the only Nile pool in the world was Tobago. And talking about that. Tourism. Right? I am in every corner of the world. And when I'm in my hotel room and I turn on the TV, Australia, New Zealand, Hungary, Ireland, England, you've seen Barbados promoted. You've seen Montego be promoted. You've seen Hawaii promoted. And we have a place they call Tobago, could match them in beaches and in the natural habitat. Tobago could match any part of the world for
Actually,
that. And yet, no second. Sure. You're talking about we giving Tobago $2.something billion a year, and Tobago could generate that income through tourism if it is developed and promoted properly. Our ministers of tourism failed this nation. Tourism sector from tiny model. Somebody need to get off and the people of Tobago need to change their blankety blank attitude and do like the Bajans and be more friendly, tourist friendly, more sociable to the tourism aspect of your country. You have a gold mine. Tobago had to depend on Trinidad dollars for the tourism dollars. You can imagine that. Plus, you have all these planes flying into Tobago. I didn't even know that. Somebody in the House of Assembly.
But something as simple as the Sajwa.
Do you know most of the empty seats that the planes flying into Tobago? The seats are subsidized by the House of Assembly. You know that?
No. You're not informing me.
Well, we must research that. I hear that the empty seats are being subsidized by the House of Assembly. So why don't get some Tobagonians the seat or some Trinidad Tobagonians the empty seat and give them it at a half price for them to fly in and out? Do something with it. Be a little more creative rather than you just paying it to airline.
Kim, I just want to ask you a question. There have been complaints from a lot of interest groups that Minister Imber did not address key areas in the budget. What are some of the areas you think were left out or could have been, better addressed?
Every area, there is no specificity in the budget. Every area was skirted. You skirt all the issues. Go ahead, Kim. That is my contribution.
I think more emphasis obviously should have been placed on agriculture. The price of food, the cost of food, it is too high. Every time I go to the supermarket, one of the questions I ask is, how do people survive in this country? And what do people in this country eat? What does the poor man eat? At least, I will say within the last 9 to 10 years, my food bill, let us not say my food bill, but the food bill, it has increased by about 200 to 300%.
300%.
Right, and one of the major contributors to that would have been the adding. Now, in the People's Partnership, one initiative that I can, give some sort of merit to them for is the removal of VAT on 8,000 food items. When this administration came into government, they put back VAT, but they decreased the VAT from 15 to 12.5%. That had a direct effect on of course, the amount of food you could afford, the food prices and the value you get for money. So I think the agriculture sector definitely needs more attention. I think business and entrepreneur, I think more incentives should have been placed. But then again, they can't do that because the economy is flat, right?
Now, there needs to be definitely an investment in people. That has always been my
Entertainment, I would have liked to see more I would have liked to see more done for entertainment. The
investment in entertainment
industry.
sector, yeah.
I would have liked to see more done when it comes to tourism, because what we are not diversifying the economy, and given the fact that with the Petrotrin debacle, Petrotrin naturally is our major revenue generator. We need to come up with ways to provide income to sustain ourselves.
What, do you want to add anything there?
The investment that I would like to see is the investment in human capital in Trinidad and Tobago. There's always been an emphasis on the construction of buildings and facilities. That is not our most valuable resource. Our human beings are, like you said, entertainers.
The human resource.
Our entertainers, our farmers, our engineers. Those are the people who could really bring benefit to Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the people who can excel on the international scale and bring back foreign exchange. And entire businesses evolve around those individuals. I mean, I could give an example like Usain Bolt. Obviously, from his exploits, he has promoted Jamaica to an international audience. And from his earnings internationally, he has brought back to Jamaica, where he still remains as his home. He's reinvested in Jamaica, in sport, in business. So there's a little industry all around that one individual. You could say the same of Dwayne Bravo and Kyron Pollard or whoever, right? You can say the same of Marshall Montano and whoever. So we need to recognize the importance. We need to recognize the importance of Universal Films in the world. How that entertainment entity earns for America and its contribution.
Not just America, but then you have the Nollywood in Nigeria, and you have Bollywood in India. And these are multi-million, dare I say billion-dollar entities.
And it ties right into tourism.
And
when you identify these individuals as mega stars or mega whatever, and their promotion is international, people get to know your country, people get to know this destination, and they want to come, they want to experience.
Right.
And there's a tremendous transfer of capital from all these other places into your country. There's also FDI, foreign direct investment, where people say, hey, I want a stake in Trinidad and Tobago. No, it seems like a wonderful place for me to set up a home, or set up a business, or set up a hotel.
I was not about to say buy a timeshare in a hotel.
So we have some real opportunities if we manage Trinidad and Tobago properly. And this takes me into another area that really peeves me every time I see the budget, the national security budget. The second largest chunk of our expenditure.
Yep.
as a item head, the waste of $7 billion or 6 point whatever billion dollars for Trinidad and Tobago nationals to not kill each other or to mitigate, because we're still killing each other, to mitigate that 3,000 people, as Mr. Colin Imbert said, supposedly, I think he's way off, 3,000 criminals in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what he said in the budget presentation.
No, but I mean the Minister of National...
Plus the white collars one and the
No, we're not
black.
even
You're not
talking
speaking about
about
them
the
at
gang
all.
leaders and the
They
gangsters.
don't deal with that part.
But the white collars criminal?
They never
They
deal with
don't
that
deal
part.
If it wasn't for the white collar criminal, you wouldn't have the hardcore criminal.
Correct, correct.
So,
And that's a whole different
No,
topic.
but I mean, he still said 3,000. The Attorney General, he said 1,940 something.
So we find $7 billion that could be used for development of our country being pushed into national security. You know, that is unacceptable. That shows that they have had no success. It is actually an increase from last year. So it shows that you are wasting money because you are not finding the right solutions to the issue.
You're spending money to try to fix crime as opposed to try to
Prevent
crime.
and that is
So you're saying we're not getting any return from national security?
Of course not.
Okay.
Do you feel safer in Trinidad and Tobago? Are we better than the year before?
if you educate your public, you wouldn't have so much ignorance and by extension the crime.
But they
If
control
you
the
have your
media, right?
social
So how
programs
you
on
would...
the run, you wouldn't have so much as suffering, so people will be tempted and moved
Desperate acts.
But then
Young
it comes
people
back.
taking desperate acts to try to get
a dollar,
A dollar, a
food
dollar.
on the table to
Yeah.
feed
They have gone through an education system that costs us $6 billion. That's the other big head.
Yeah, in terms of that, that's what I wanted
which
to
is
touch
not
on, right.
satisfactory as well, not in terms of the figure, but what we are getting value for money. So you go through an education system that is costing us billions of dollars, and you come out without the ability to earn, without the honesty, empathy, morals, values, that will prevent you from taking somebody else's life for a dollar, right? So our education system fails, and then you spend another 6 billion, 7 billion almost, to find them, to whatever, to chase behind the result.
To lock them up,
your failed results.
to feed
You know,
them.
children come out of knowledge, college below elementary knowledge, and it is all tied into keeping people in ignorance, and it's a business.
Chaos has to be a business. right?
Chaos is a business. So, in order to have a ministry of
National security.
national security, you must have criminals. But you know, the sad thing about it is the real criminals are not being brought to justice. And it starts from the top. And if we look at it skillfully and carefully and put legislation in place, like the Singapore model, to protect us from all the corruption, and all the
Mismanagement.
mismanagement. We have a
Wastage.
management issue.
Does
in
it
this
start
country.
from the top, Boxer?
Yeah. Where it starts?
It's just a different perspective, and I'm asking, does it start from the top?
Where it
Yeah,
starts
I
from?
think it starts from the top.
Where it starts from?
I'm asking.
Politics dictates your every move in life. Politics.
I think the first responsibility is with leaders and people who are supposed to know better,
Misleaders.
who take on the mantle of saying, hey, we know and we could do, and we know how it should be, and we will fix it, right? If you push yourself and you perpetuate the idea that you are the solution, then the first level of culpability lies with you. You can't cop out after and then say, well, it's not us, it's the people, right? So
Well-
they bear the brunt of the responsibility.
You see the lifestyle of these people. You go into office, a pauper, and you come out a billionaire. And your lifestyle change immediately. It's poor people and taxpayers have to suffer for that.
At the expense of
At the expense of the poor people and the taxpayers. At the end of the day, there must be some sort of checks and balances in place to manage the people's purses. And if we don't have, we could talk all what we want. If we have a management issue, or we have a mismanagement, it is as real as that, then we have an issue. You know, and you're talking about the education system. They teach the children to go to school, get good grades, fit in a structured environment, and become an economic slave. No entrepreneurial skills, no other skills. They don't address the other skills. And then when that child become a criminal, you're now looking to lock him up. So the education system failing, national security failing, the health system failing because your food and drug department failing you. And you have a failing system, and then you're coming to tell us, mesmerize us with all kind of fancy talk to tell us that you could do better from election to election. That's what I just said. Young people need to wake up and take charge of the globe. You have these old cronies mislead us into almost oblivion.
Yeah. The debts that we are incurring, the trap that we're going into with pensions and NIB, in terms of their inability in the future to meet the payments that they need to, all those debts, these debts that we are incurring to China, government-to-government loans, to build infrastructure, these debts that we are incurring to subsidize a budget like this, to supposedly appease certain people and gain political power again. All these debts are going to be borne out by us, the young people. Our generation, my children, we are going to have to work.
Now, I know it's about the children, the children's children, the generations to come, but I wanted to just, go back a little to one of the things that we were discussing as it relates to entertainment and youth getting the opportunity. One of the things that I see is not treated within this country is 50% local content on the radio, the TV, in the media. That in itself is one of the hindrances to youth. One, earning. It impacts their earning ability, and it impacts their ability to be recognized. For instance, in Barbados, I know that there was legislation, in fact, was passed in Barbados, I think over a decade ago, whereby you have 50% local content on their radio.
Okay.
In Trinidad and Tobago, let me see, from Boxing Day straight up until Ash Wednesday, that's when you get the bulk of the soca music and I would say soca. But throughout the year, we hear Jamaicans, international acts, and these are our youth, our human resource, our human capital have to compete with these international acts who get more airplay. And we have to pay for it, who get more airplay when when Popcorn, whatever his name is, when he comes to do a show in Trinidad, and in Trinidad, it sells out. Local artists, we don't even hear some of the music that these local artists, they produce, they come up with. That is something that ought to be addressed, and in my opinion, in my estimation, I think that in itself is an industry that we can explore in the future. And music, it's not limited to soca. You have underground rap in Trinidad, you have R&B, you have a lot of local talent that is hidden because they don't get the opportunity to be played on mainstream or conventional media, as I say. In as much as social media is a driving force and it's the new type of media, there is this culture that if you haven't hit the radio, you're still not really saying anything. If you're not on TV, you're not recognized, or you are not legit as an artist. So that is one of the things that I think it's an easy fix. But why isn't it being fixed?
Yeah, you expected Colin Imbert.
It's not an easy fix.
You expected Colin Imbert and this administration to address issues like that?
No, so
totally.
Right, so I want to go back to even what you said about smaller parties and the voting public. I listened to Derek Ramsey, and he made a very harsh, in my opinion, harsh statement to Miss John the night of that interview, and he said to her that the people. Let me tell you what he said. Your leader is tainted, and UNC in its current form lacks leadership. So I buy it, I sell it, I make any profit.
You're going good.
Right?
Keep talking.
And one of the, I think we are at a point in this country where people are very unhappy with the government, but there seems to be no viable alternative. And in as much as, Fuad articulates that we are going to see a shock with smaller parties and that kind of thing, even the media, again, is pushing the two major parties. If you paid attention to TV6's coverage of the budget and the ad that they had, all I saw was a Balize and the Rising Sun. I did not see the COP logo, I didn't see your logo, I didn't see the PEP logo, I did not see any logo. I didn't see. You had to pay to put it on.
And we play straight back into the traditional
Two-party system.
two-party,
I did see Carolyn
which
Sipasar
is a trap.
She was there, but
Which is a trap. And I am saying that social media is a game changer. Like
social media is a threat to democracy.
yes, I was going to quote him again. Like Stuart Young said, it is a threat to the PNM, it is a threat to the UNC. People are getting smarter. You can't fool my generation and tell us.
But then what are the small parties waiting for to show themselves?
They exist, and people
know
are
they
becoming
exist.
more and more aware of it. Politically, because you have to still market yourself, it will take a certain amount of resources to do so.
Okay.
Still, even within the context. But trust me, let me at least give you that hope.
But I remember in 2010, we had something as big as or a little bigger than the One Corridor movement. I remember Ram Jack G went out to the East-West Corridor and promoted something, a concept, vote out Pandey, vote in Kamla. Remember that?
Right.
And then they merged with something they call the COP, and you get all the cosmopolitan people on the East-West Corridor riding a wave. You remember that?
Yes, I
They
remember.
are going through it step by step.
Yes.
Then that entity or party merged with the UNC,
Right.
and they got almost a landslide victory. 28, 29 seats. 29 seats, right?
Out of 40.
Good. Without the corridor,
Right.
the UNC with the 18 seats cannot get into power. You have 18 seats, but without the corridor, the East-West corridor, the cosmopolitan people, the mixed people, you cannot get into power. So the One Corridor movement sung him good.
But that's
But
a
remember,
farce. But
hold
also
on.
that is a farce.
Well,
That is not real.
Let me finish this step.
Okay, finish.
But remember, when you had the COP, the people on the corridor felt disenfranchised. The COP people who helped you get into office felt disenfranchised by the then partnership and mostly the UNC entity. Now it is you come here with Julian on a One Corridor movement, which is good. But I am saying that One Corridor movement must be given the respect as equality, as an equal partner in the party, in government. Then and only then the people will take you serious and you will be back in government. But this One Corridor movement must be equally treated.
But it's not being equally treated.
Well, they're not in government now, so we don't know.
Sorry, Bob, so I am kind of turned off there once you started to talk about the past. As a young man in Trinidad and Tobago, I'll tell you,
history for
no problem, but hear me out. As a young man in Trinidad and Tobago, and let me venture to express the feelings of my generation. Once you start to talk about
Our generation.
them, people and them, all of them collectively, because collectively politicians, we have a certain amount of disdain for them. We do not vote because we are not interested in the nonsense, because it's not affecting our lives positively. We can't wait for that generation to retire and give us
young
a
people
chance.
around the world saying that.
Yes.
All over the world.
And I'm saying that in 2020, we are not stupid. We understand this game of politics to the extent we're waiting to say, well, where are for me? Bring something in.
What can you do for me now and going forward? Is
Bring
what
something
young people.
substantial
No.
to me.
I want to see it now. I'm not into this, you're going to tell me you're going to give me after election. You, what you think I am? A microwave does make popcorn in 3 minutes, you know. I want it now. You see this nonsense about since 1969 or since 2002, water for all and whatever. We're not on that.
And no money for all. Money for someone who...
And we still living in my mother house. We catching we tail out of UE. They tell us get elevated and then you can't find a job. We have doctors coming back to Trinidad and Tobago and they cannot be employed because the RH is saying they don't have funding. But you're building 4 big new hospitals, billions of dollars. Man.
The hemorrhaging. The hemorrhaging in the society.
So when you start to talk about...
I want to talk about that.
When you start to talk about the one corridor movement...
One bread on the corridor
and
movement.
who this, whoever, whatever. I love off, you know.
But Jillian did not come here this morning to talk about the one corridor movement.
Well,
She'll
Well,
be
I'm
able
sure
to promote
probably
it
next
properly.
time she's probably
All
going to join
that-
us in a panel.
but
Or maybe I'm going to have a one-on-one discussion with her.
All that is the
But
past.
why?
All that is the past.
Calls
I don't want
was
to hear
unanswered,
about it.
same as for Mr. Fitzgerald Hines. Calls went unanswered after
And that is
numerous
what we're
calls.
saying to you, the media.
Fitzy, my boy, Fitzy.
Yeah, calls
Fitzy,
went unanswered.
vocal
but
Fitzy.
yeah, just to
Oh,
touch
yeah,
back
it's in my
on
ears.
with
All that is the past of politics, hopefully, in Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot have a generation 60 and above managing all the affairs for 30% of the population between the age of 35 to 18. Don't understand our lives, don't understand what we want out of our society.
Is it that they don't understand our lives because they have children? And
Don't
their children,
understand, don't care. They
They
are in
don't
a,
care about our lives.
Remember,
they
they
understand.
they are in a bubble.
In order to exploit us, they must understand, how
Keep
to
you in
exploit
ignorance.
us. Of course.
In order to exploit you, they must keep you in ignorance.
Let me show you the level of,
And
of
this is
misunderstanding that they have. Remember, these people live aloof. There is barely a grassroots individual in parliament anymore. From the time they get into office, and some of them before, they belong to a certain...
Grassroots.
Which grass? Goodwood grass?
Conversations,
Grass.
grass. Study with a lamp, she said.
That's days have passed and they have long forgotten she lives in a palace. I didn't understand that politics is the highest paid job in Trinidad and Tobago.
Faris is the relatives to Prophet Muhammad, who is grassroots. We're wrong with you, boy. Faris is the relative of Prophet Muhammad. He grow a beard, you forget Faris grow a beard to become a Muslim, and then when he can find out, he shave it off.
And probably spending thousands of dollars in oils to put in the beard.
But
and
when they
whatever.
find
And
out, he shave off the
all the
beard.
Botox and the makeup and all that kind of thing, the plastic surgeries,
Listen,
You know,
these
the
people,
gastric bypasses and
these
all of
people
that.
are totally out of touch.
The gastric bypass.
The tummy
As-
tuck and all
as
that.
he- as he two fellas
Before we
take-
move forward, I just wanted to ask if the budget had addressed the housing. In your thoughts?
Dress the what?
Housing.
I don't think any budget can address 175,000 people on our waiting list.
220,000.
220
Yes.
at AGC. I don't think any budget can address that properly. This is a problem that has been created over a long period of time with no solution being rendered. And this drop in the bucket, 5,000 houses by the end of next year or whatever, is not going to solve
The
the
HEC system itself
immense problem.
This
has
is the
failed.
entity that brings in the most money to impact lives in Trinidad and Tobago is the energy sector, right?
The energy sector.
Right, but which one was given the highest in this budget?
So-
Education and
Revenue and
National
authority,
National
revenue
security.
authority and procurement regulatory is what the goodly minister spoke to at some part of his budget. But he didn't speak to the hemorrhaging of that entity. There is a part of that entity that oversees the management of gas and oil that comes out of the ground. That oversee that, a little department in energy that oversee that.
Yeah.
And I understand it is woefully understaffed as we speak. That is to facilitate the hemorrhaging, such as fake oil and them kind of thing.
But,
You know what I mean?
but
But
Petrotrol no
you
longer
want-
exists in that
Yeah, but
to that extent.
we're just
yeah.
saying something here to
Yeah.
establish how the hemorrhaging is taking place.
Yeah, and has
You
taken
put in
place for
legislation
quite
in
some time.
place. You put in legislation in place to mask situations when the real issue is that the hemorrhaging all over the place. I mean, in every ministry, if you would put something in place to stem the flow of the hemorrhaging, we will be in a better place. We would not be having these types of discussion this morning. Because the money would redound to the people.
Okay, but how you expect them to live these lofty lifestyles if they don't hemorrhage money?
Well, come on, well, there's the
The
same thing.
hemorrhaging
know.
is there for a reason.
So there-
Case
They
in
could
point,
just
the
live off their
minister.
fat for a while because they're in a position
So
where they could sustain their lofty lifestyles for quite some time.
The minister, sorry,
Go ahead.
the minister in the ministry, Lehant, very disingenuous fellow, very disingenuous contribution at the post-budget discussion, zeroing in on the HDC issue. This man says that they're building new developments, and the developments that he's talking about, he spoke about in particular this Fairview development down Labrie. These are existing developments. You have Southern Garden developments, which I think boasts about 1,200 houses that was built in a swamp, condemned, right? At least the last time I checked up on it. So what it is you have is a system in HDC that facilitates mass hemorrhaging and mismanagement of state funds through one government starts a project. This new government discontinues the project. You have billions of dollars allocated and spent to build one HDC development. A new government, if the government changes, they discontinue the project. So you have that beginning to deteriorate, becoming vandalized. They move on, they pump billions of dollars again, hundreds of millions of dollars again into a new HDC development. And then when they come out of power, you have two sets, or you have 10 years of construction, totally vandalized, in dire need of repair, money's wasted, contractors tie up because they can't get their money
Talk
because...
about that in the budget.
Yes, he made mention about the I think it was
That's post-budget.
Yes, at TV6 News. That's what Mr. said, right? It was a $1.08 billion allocation, I think, for housing.
For housing, yeah.
Right. The issue
And
is
you talk about how much hemorrhaging out of that?
no, they don't, and that is per year. That is not for 5 years. That is per year. And what it is you have is citizens of the country who pay an extortionate amounts of rents, who cannot qualify for loans to get mortgages, and you have billions of dollars over 10 years wasted. And you have these shells of houses unoccupied. They cannot be occupied whilst the citizens of the country suffered continued to suffer in 2016. I did a drive and I identified some 12,000 HDC homes in that position, and that was unoccupied, undistributed, some of them vandalized.
You're still talking about best case because we also had the incidences of Las Alturas. We have an entire housing development done that has to be demolished, and that is our taxpayers'
What's the
money.
reason for that again?
Because there was movement of the soil.
Without approval, it was built without approval.
No feasibility studies done, nothing proper, everything is just
Without
wish-wash.
approval,
Somebody has to be responsible. We had a school built in.
Then again, you have, and I wish Ms. John was here, you have land, Eden Gardens land, that started at $50 million and it skyrocketed to some in excess of $200 million.
Yeah, let's just stick a
Somebody
little
says
pin
the
in it.
measurement unit.
Let's just hold for a minute
is
and just take a
understaffed.
break to just head to the news, and we'll be right back with the program.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back.
We have strategically decided that we won't contest the local government election. Local government reform is still just a promise. And there is
Since
no
2016, as a not to cut you, but
Yeah.
as a local government candidate in 2016, that was one of the campaign tones, the campaign songs, local government reform. We had to learn about this whole local government reform, what it is, the policy, and all of that, and then 3 years later, going into 4 years, nothing has been implemented. So again, this is what I'm saying. This is what I say this is what I mean when I say this PNM government.
You sound like a very frustrated councillor / local government because that is all that you have from that process.
But in the grand scheme of things, again, right? 4 years it takes to implement piece of legislation, which does not require much. How do they expect to deliver on the dry dock facility that they promised? how do they expect, or when do we expect them to deliver on all the promises that they had, not only in their manifestos, but these trinkets that they're promising in the budget? So when I say this PNM government consistently playing politics with the lives of the citizens of the country, this is what I mean. But then what is the alternative? And I don't mean to stick a pin in your balloon, Fuad, but I bring it as real as I can. I am on the ground. And the ground is, this is straight up PNM or UNC.
Now, I don't know what ground you're on. Everywhere that I turn in Trinidad and Tobago,
People are afraid to split the vote.
no,
Prior to
everywhere
this
that I
budget.
turn, people say, we fed up, you're going up, what we go do? Everywhere that I turn
But
in
it does
Trinidad
not
and
translate into votes. This is something that I
Yet.
heard you said.
we fool
last
ourselves with the
general election that
culture.
you
We fool
contested.
ourselves with the culture that it is a two-party system. But we have seen a COP alternative that was successful in gaining 200 and something thousand votes. We have seen the NAR win an election in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
We have seen
33-3.
we have seen NJAC and other entities in the past gain formidable ground on the existing big parties. But we are again brainwashed with a supposed culture, and we believe it. That is that's the main thing, you know. If you believe it,
I
and we
think
say
that-
that it becomes reality. But I'm telling you, Diego Martin and environs, if you look at the voter turnout in those areas, people do not come out the way they come out in Central or whatever, Chagonas, 26,000 people, you know. You find in Port of Spain, 8,000 people decide an election. So you have a voter apathy of over 50-something%. It is changing, you know, drastically, you know.
I think this election 2020, people are going to vote and they don't know who they are going to vote for and why they are going to vote for that person.
We
And
saw a PDP in Tobago win 2 seats in local government, you know. And we are going to see there's a serious threat that they are going to, in general election, win. We saw Mr. Jack Warner with an independent Liberal Party win an entire seat. Listen, yes, we say that things are the same, but I don't see it that way.
what I'm saying to you is 1 year, no, we cannot even say 1 year before an election. This is something that I think also needs to be treated with. There must be amendments to the Constitution which stipulate that on this particular date is when we have the election. The election should not be based on the
Whims and fancies
the
of the
whims and
government.
fancies of the political leader to pull a random date out of the back pocket.
I have one question. Kamala had a 2-2 majority when she was in office.
Yes.
29
Initially,
seats.
Yes.
Then she promised all kind of
But,
All kind of
but
reform.
Boxer shit is a lie. How much times you want me to say that to you? But
I
no, but
I'm
that
saying-
lady,
Let us
that
just
lady.
pull back
we
to the
blaming
No, but
to the
so-
budget
talking about
so
the
then-
PNM
so then-
to change it now.
No, same.
When we had an opportunity to change it then,
Yeah.
and we had a 33-3, could have changed it then. And nobody's interested in changing it. They're interested in getting in office to mamagayas.
Correct.
More
Again.
than do the job. And this is the discussion. I sit down here and I listen to you all, you know, and I say, you know what?
Boxer, don't talk about.
At 7, well,
No, but
At
at
70.
70, at 70,
no
I have
change.
heard this before. I have heard all what you all talking about and all these nice ideas. Forward, you're young and you're aspiring to be a leader. You're young and you have a lot of energy and you all are the future. And I say that to all my young children and family, you all are the future of the world. So people like us must give all you the support to take the world forward. But when you look at the evil agenda of men, of humans,
And
that we
women,
put
and
men and women, humans, I just say humans.
Yeah.
The evil agenda of humans that we elect to office, and the way they come to us and the way they mamagaya us to get in office, and when they get there, the wickedness they do to us, and we don't stand up, we don't protest enough, we don't fight enough, and at the end of the day, young people must stop being so lazy and must be a little more energized and vibrant to stand up and
Is
fight
it that
for
they're
their
lazy
world.
or they're despondent?
I don't know. Well, you cannot be. I was not despondent. You
Well,
know how much time I fall and get up in life, especially in sports. When you're a sportsman, the same people clap you today, boo you tomorrow. You ride 5 good races, you just now win 5 races, and you ride a bad race, and they boo you. You know how much of that I face in my life. People must be thick-skinned and bomb-proof when you want to go forward and make a difference. in the
But
world.
that tenacity and that strength as a man that you may have, there are very, very few young people who have been bred with that spirit.
Because
So
we go
the
them up on a
education-
telephone and in front of television box.
Whatever it is that causes it, the education system, the parenting, we have created people who accept. We have created people who are selfish that, boy, me, that's all they study, me
Is it
right
me
here.
or two particular groups in this country?
Well, I take responsibility
But
as
you're
well. I
saying
say,
the same thing, you know.
yeah, I say, brother, even if it's not me personally, even though I am fighting against
No, not
that,
I mean
yeah.
the groups. of
Before
people
we
who-
continue
Wind
this
up, yeah.
discussion, one of the issues which continues to affect the country is the clear shortage of foreign exchange, which
Yeah.
the minister did not directly address.
speak about. Yeah.
But
Yes.
Mr.
How-
Potts, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but I know you follow these political meetings. When the PNM opened
Are
the
we talking about the foreign exchange?
Yes, when the PNM opened the political office in Central and Chabonas, I listened to the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, and he made a statement with respect to a bank that is owned by a group, and he claimed that they were holding all the foreign exchange. And he also claimed that they are asking him to, what did he say? About the dollar? About the
Devalue the dollar. Go ahead.
So,
Right.
And he refusing and they're pushing back at him right now. And how much money they would make if he devalued the dollar, they would make over $30 billion. And he's not doing it. And if they don't want him in office, that is the good Keith Rowley said that. So he just say some good things, you know. But you know, you must follow up and you must fulfill the promises. And like all politicians, they come and they say some good things. And at the end of the day, they fail on their promises and they turn around and they mesmerize the public like this. The Honorable Keith Rowley is a good political street fighter. He could change the topic and he could start the fight where the fight is under no rules.
Oh, you know a lot about them
I was
fights.
saying the other day, he's running rings around these politicians. Here, well, Keith Rowley is supposed to be in a boxing match with the UNC, and they promote the fight, and the fight's supposed to take place in the ring. You know what Keith Rowley doing? He waiting outside the stadium, and as you're walking, coming in, he start the fight. And by the time he done beat you out there, the boxing, people say, but look, the fight out there, there are no rules. The fight, he fighting you without rules, and
Right.
he beating them all over the place.
No, but that is
and they're not
experience.
understanding the
But that
fight.
is experience. He is the most experienced
He's a political
parliamentarian.
street fighter and
We
he's
have-
winning. They need to change their political strategy to get him, otherwise he will...
All of them are winning, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago
Are suffering.
are losing.
Yes,
But going
because
back to
the
the-
former Prime Minister, isn't she getting a Prime Minister salary while sitting in opposition?
And blue
With,
lights.
with increased pension
And blue lights?
and the aspiration
So
to go back and
she's getting paid for a job. She's getting paid as much as Keith Rowley. She's the fourth highest person in the land. Invited in the land. Is the president, the prime minister, could be she, and then
then
the
box
chief
support.
justice, or me. Nah,
Chief
they
Justice
won't
and
invite me. They won't invite me. So I understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
So she's benefiting from our hard work. Likewise, Keith is benefiting from the PNM people hard work. Right? So
From
they
all of
benefit
our
from
hard work.
all of our hard work. So let's say she's benefiting, she and Keith is benefiting from the nation's hard work. And we're having this discussion about how to fix the thing. It is simple to fix it. The young people, all you need to energize all yourself, all you need to educate all yourself, all you need to understand that it will have collateral damage, it will have mortality going forward, but people are dead for people to live. And if people don't dead, people won't live. Because if I was to live to 900 years and people like me was to live, it ain't gonna have no space in the world for young people. So understand you can't live forever. You come here for 70 years, you come here for 80 years, do what you have to do in that time and make an impact. But Fuad, I agree with you when I hear you promoting young people and the concept of young people taking over the country and by extension the world. I agree with you 100%, Kim. I just, a lot of people have issue with Kim Cole, the way she deliver her message. But you must have real people in the world. You cannot have all hypocritical people in the world. I find Kim Cole does deliver how she know to deliver her message.
It's
And
not.
Is it how she delivers the message or what she's disseminating to the
No,
public?
but you see, she practical, she factual, and the truth offends politically. And if you're not deceitful, politically, see how much trouble Donald Trump in? He's trying to change the status quo. Albeit he's fixing himself. So he's doing two things at one time.
I don't know about that
Well,
political
well,
analysis. That is our next two-party
Yeah,
system.
it's a two-party
That is
system,
like
but
him.
he's doing something. He just confusing the apple cart all over the place. I'm saying to you that I agree with you in a lot of the things you say. I like to sit down and listen to when you're on set. I like to listen to when you're having your political discourse. But you know what? You offend some of the people who you need the support in the short term. And you have to realize, Kim, that these idiots that you offend, they are emotional creatures. They do not, I'm saying it like it is. You see, they might get vexed with me because they're idiotic in their behavior. They are emotional creatures. They think with their emotion. They don't think with their brains. And when you're saying something to help them out, they get vexed with you because they're looking to hang with somebody to eat a little food in the short term and destroy their future in the long term. Mm-hmm. This is what's going on in the political arena, you know. So you now have to listen. You might be going down the road and say, hey, Boxo Pots is a scam. I don't, Boxo Pots are here so. But you know, as you turn your back, two fellas say they want to kill Kim Cole. Boxo Pots jumping out and say, oh, they can't do that, she's a good man. So you need me. You need people to work with. So you have to be politically savvy. You have to understand how, you have to be a soldier. You have to have the skills, the good, the bad, and the ugly skills. And you have to know how to please some and keep some working with you. It is how the political landscape is designed. And unfortunately, the education system put us in that place. So at the end of the day, hypocrisy, deceit, and all of them things have a place in the political landscape. If you don't know how to work between all of them, then you have to be a political street fighter like Keith.
So I just want to interject there a bit with you because I know you were also under the UNC, right? I've heard you on some radio stations.
Under the UNC, with the UNC. Because
when
Sancho put me under.
You keep lobbying that, all over radio stations.
Once you grassroots, you're under. What if you do?
Go ahead.
I've been hearing you on radio stations, you're going on about, what took place with you under the UNC. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look back to now, how do you feel?
Well, I was born and brought up in the PNM. My mother is a PNM, was a PNM. Mm-hmm. And I worked with the PNM and I was dissatisfied for some things and I walked away and I went and I worked with Daniel Roberts. And sad to say, two technocrats at the ministry decided that they want to take Boxo life. Two technocrats, I ain't calling no name. And don't get frightened, nobody else gets. And at the end of the day, I didn't think I was treated fairly in the UNC, because when people try to take your life, you expect the soldiers around you to stand up for you. One man stand up for me in this country is Yasin Abubakar. Mm-hmm. One man that went to the ground and said nothing must happen to Boxo Pots. Right? All the would-be shooters who all you have, he went to them and said, hey, they're setting up this man to lick him down. So take all your time here. That said, a lot of the big politicians, the so-called friends, they walk away, they turn their back on me. They turn their back on me so much so that they give a minister a job to fire me for trying to save my life. I'm saying it, and how could you trust? I want to work with people, but I don't have the trust. The trust is not there, and people must understand. Leaders must understand. So I seen something being done to Kamala Persad. Mm-hmm. She's ring-fencing herself with a bunch of people who want to buzz sweet nothingness in her ears. And she's not allowing the ground, the people real like Kim Cole and myself and for her to talk to her, to give her the real information so she could think and help herself. Keith Rowley don't do that, you know. Keith Rowley's a real, he's a groundhog. He'll peruse the ground, he'll dig up every piece of dirt on the ground, and he'll have the information. So nobody don't have to run and whisper sweet a bunch. And if you tell him something, he's analyze it and research it. So Kamala, you need to do that. When you have these sort of little political children around you, telling you a bunch of sweet nothingness, and they're keeping you out of the real issues from the ground, what impact and affect people's lives. That is where you keep losing, and you want to know why you're not getting the traction on the ground. You form a one corridor movement, you try this, you try that. You're looking for, according to Kim, you're looking to appease black people on the east-west corridor.
To lie to black people and box so
But
don't take me down that road, you know. Because I will go down that road this
We
morning.
will take him down on that road.
No, but it's all right. Kim can say what she have to say, and rightly so, because she somewhere along the line she has some really good issues, and you know she
No,
wants
but
to
how
say.
you could say that you're appealing to African people and in
to.
the opposition
Right.
leader, and in the opposition bench you have 18 seats and 15 of them are East Indians. When I see African people getting UNC safe seats to fight, then I will take that notion of this one corridor movement and African people inclusion and all
So we
that.
have
I
a
will
token
take that
Rodney
seriously. I will
Charles,
take
and we
it
have a token
seriously.
Brent Sancho, and we have a token Arnel Roberts. He was not UNC, but he was a COP.
And has the audacity to refer to people like Oreo. So what about the African people in the UNC who's selling our black people to the UNC? What is custard cream?
The future of our country does not lie in the UNC or the PNM. This political racial divide will never carry Trinidad and Tobago forward.
Thank you.
And if we want to
I agree with
progress,
you.
we need to escape from even those words. I would love
People
on
are
the
people.
platform we stop talking about UNC and PNM.
Yeah, Fuad, as a
But I
political
know,
leader,
But they are in
we have
charge.
no choice.
Fuad.
We have no
They're in
choice.
charge.
as a political leader yourself, Fuad, you've seen on social media that Jack Warner is back.
I told you
Right,
before,
and-
with the political past, I don't want to discuss the political past. People need to know when it's time to enjoy your grandchildren and leave the forward progression of our country to the people who have dreams and aspirations and ideals. This egotistical nonsense that you think you need to die in power or die in a seat of authority is something that is archaic.
He doesn't have the political stock in trade. He doesn't have that political currency as he once had, right? So we're wasting time to talk about Jack Warner. And
Okay.
some of these leaders, these people, both UNC and the PNM, the political currency dwindling under them, and they need to understand it. And the young people need to get up and understand that the world belongs to them, and not these old fogies who we have in office.
No, but what you would have had is a culture of paying for votes was introduced somewhere around 2009, 2010.
And come back to haunt you at the end of the day. And you come and you lost all your job, all your social programs taken away. And it now, the same social program that was taken away from you 4 years ago, you so ignorant, you now come to boast that you get something from the budget. You ain't get nothing, you get back something. So don't be boasting, you Mr. Man on the ground, you Mr. Public, you Mr. You know, the young people of Trinidad and Tobago, the ignorant public of Trinidad and Tobago. Things were taken away from you, you suffer for 4 years. And now you're coming to talk back, they get, we get.
That's what I said, spend $1 billion.
Great, bravo. But you know what?
Spend $1 billion to get access to $300 billion. Never mind.
I've been down this road before.
My concern is whether or not Petrotrin is ultimately going to be sold, not to the OWTU, because they have 3 years, you know, they have 3 years to make it profitable or whatever. And the other concern I have is whether or not WASA is going to be privatized.
Are you sure some of the big boys, I'm just saying big boys,
And not just
not
fronts?
partnering with the cat cut your tongue, what you name?
Mr. Roger.
Roger. And by the way, let's talking about Roger, cat cut your tongue. You're all talking about labor. We have the best labor minister ever in the history of this country.
The most quiet labor minister.
She comes from labor. It is labor that propelled her to this office. Why are you not promoting the dying industry they call labor. Labor propel you to the office. Labor get you everything that you earn in your life. Now you're turning your back on the same labor that get you there. And I didn't hear you when they lock up Watson Duke. I'm not even hearing Duke, he said, but I didn't hear you. You know what I mean? So you know,
No, but then
the
you
other
have
one we had in the ex-minister, Errol.
Yeah.
Errol born into the twilight. Errol happy like papi. Errol went in there struggling, talking about struggle like if he's one of us. Now Errol rich and switch.
He's one of them.
He's one of the rich and switch. Let me get it right. So Errol went in there as a pauper and he come out rich and switch. Errol boy, you set me up. Madam Minister of Labour, you're setting we up. Watson, we're looking at you as the solution, but you need to get some. I'm going to buy some honey and lemon. If vocal cords like it gone, we go fix that. You understand? So at the end of the day,
whatever you're using, Boxer, if you give it to him, he will be alright.
I eating green, partner. He need to eat green and not eating flesh. No meat. I don't eat meat, and that is why I have so much energy. So yeah, what? And you just talk about Watson could win Tobago. Yeah, but the Tobago people really need to get up.
But Tobago, because I think it's $1 billion additional.
Yeah.
Tobago is $1 billion industry.
We're talking about the budget, with the budget.
It's 2 point something billion dollars they get them. It's every year they're getting 2 point something billion dollars.
Did they get an increase?
No, they got the
They're supposed to. They're supposed to increase their attitude and work.
They got
in
the
work
lowest
ethics
allocation,
and
the lowest.
build Tobago as a. What is the tourism income of Barbados and Montego Bay per year? Let me go there and look at that and see how much money Tobago giving away or Tobago not making. Barbados main industry is tourism, not so?
Yeah.
They run the country on the tourist dollar. And people in Barbados almost have as good or a better lifestyle than us. Here we have a twin island, named Tobago, that could bring in the same amount of income to us, but it is underutilized, under-promoted. By the same, wait, now is my Minister of Sports was there before? And who was there before? Is my Minister of Sports, Madam, don't tell me you're going and do boxing like you do tourism. Wait, but like I'm now checking myself. Who was there before she? Under the UNC. Who was there with her?
Maybe after the show you can,
No, but
you can
we
check
talking.
back on that.
It's real serious. It's a serious topic because they're managing the thing.
Right.
Who was the Minister of Tourism before her? He didn't do a good job too, you know.
Right.
So she got handed a piece of junk, or she got handed virgin land, virgin territory, underutilized, underdeveloped, and somebody didn't give her the little key of wisdom how to do it. So I could talk to the next one. Who's the one there now?
Randall Mitchell.
Randall?
Mitchell.
Yeah, waxing ears, you could listen.
He could dance.
You really could listen.
On that note, Mr. Potts, we have come to the end of today's discussion with the budget.
You just
But I'm going to
just like that.
I'm going to ask each of you, is there anything you are happy about within this budget?
Yes. The light bulbs.
The light bulbs.
Yes, from the standpoint of fuel, efficiency.
Oh, you serious? I thought
Chavez, they were like bulbs too, you know, and that was the decline of Venezuela, you know.
I thought you were a drama guy.
All right.
I thought you were
Chavez start giving away light
So
bulbs in
Kim, you are
Venezuela.
happy about the light bulbs?
And I am happy about pushing and promoting a greener environment.
I like that.
Boxer.
You know what? The
I will
banana
be happy.
styrofoam,
Right.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
I will be happy. So right now I'm not, right? When the politicians are serious about the growth and the development of the youth, as it relates to the social programs, as it relates to the sporting programs, as it relates to the academics, as it relates to the prison reform, as it relates to educating them young men that you're trying to arrest and make them criminalize, how to decriminalize them, as it relates to job opportunities and equality for all in this country, and moreover the management system of the country, whereby you will stop the hemorrhaging of the country. then and only then I will be satisfied. All right? And when the young people get up and start to have a say in this country and make a difference, and stop them whole set of politicians from thieving and lying down the place, because I didn't say that. Then one side say the other side thief and lie, and the other side say the other side thief and lie, so they tell us that. So young people must now understand how to monitor and evaluate them thieves, set of thieves and liars, move them from thieving and lying away, and put a new generation of politicians, honest politicians, to manage our business. We wouldn't be having this discussion this morning. We'd be happy like Papi. We'd be like Singapore, going down the road. Hey, I happy. Alright? So I've been down, I could be jovial and I could be happy and this and I could talk like this because I've been there, done that. I just had my 70th birthday and I went on a cruise and I enjoyed myself. I could talk like Skippy all over, but I enjoyed myself.
Very nice.
Like I referred to this budget before, this is the last straw economically for Trinidad and Tobago. For my generation, I asked them to stand up and speak out. Mr. Imbert closed by quoting Bob Marley, "Get up, stand up." And he said that they got up and they stood up. Mm-hmm. And that is ironic because the people of Trinidad and Tobago need to get up, stand up, and demand better.
Young people. The young people need to get up
and the young at heart, Boxu, because at 70, you're quite young at heart.
But I would also close off with,
a young girl tell me smile looking good.
But I would close off with words from Buju Banton. This 9 to 5 is a joke compared to the depression. The minister said the economy is getting better, misleading the people, the masses suffer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Abby, I thank you for having me on this show. Mm-hmm. It's always a pleasure to come and air my views in the public domain, albeit making a lot of enemies, airing your views and being practical and factual and honest with your discourse and your discussions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel pain for my little sister here. She's like a daughter to me, Kim Cole.
But why are you feeling pain for me?
Because
I'm even feeling pain for myself.
Well, you have a good message, and the people not listening, so are feeling the pain. Because the people, we are living in ignorance, and the ignorant people not listening to the real discussion. They're listening to the thing that mesmerized them. A man talk about, there was a big discussion about Faris Alwari renting all these buildings to the country and look how much money he making. And Keith Rowley get on a platform and say, you're only talking about Faris, and the discussion change and people ain't talking about that again. You understand? So he know to change the discussion and Faris still running away with all the money.
Thank you so much. I want to thank each of you for coming here this morning and joining this panel discussion. I know I'm going to be continuing another discussion on Friday with some surprising guests as well.
I hope they come.
On behalf of all of us here at the PSA TV, I wish to thank Ms. Kim Cole, Boxupert, and political leader Mr. Fuad Abubakar for coming here. I'm Avalon Williams. Stay tuned for more on this budget debate next Friday. Well, Friday coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
This was a social debate.